I want to tackle a couple of questions, just kind of dive right in. I want to kind of take what my customers are asking me to ask you type thing, and then we'll go into a little bit of what I want to know as well. The first thing, just from a market perspective, right? Like you've got Kajabi, who's like probably the most well-known, that at least my customers come across. And somebody asked a question, which I thought, I can give an opinion. I would just love to hear your thoughts. And this is what she said. She said, a lot of people view Podia as a Kajabi light or as cheaper, scaled down version of it. How do you view your position in the market? What makes your customers stay long-term rather than jump ship?
Sure. So I think it's always difficult to, before I get into that, I think it's always difficult to talk about your competitors because I think we're all doing a great job at helping creators monetize their audiences. And so I don't like to take shots or cheap shots anyway at other competitors. So usually I just like to focus on kind of what we do well. But I will kind of compare us to Kajabi in some sense. So I think for one thing, I think we try to keep the product really simple to use. That's always been, since day one, founding this company in 2014, has always been very important to me because a lot of tools, they just get more and more complicated over time. There's more and more options, more and more preferences. In the software world, it's called bloat. And so sometimes, again, not trying to take a shot, but our focus is on the simplicity and the ease of use, whereas other tools in our market sometimes tend to add every single bell and whistle, add tons and tons of options and preferences. And for 99 out of 100 customers, they're not looking to do all the things that product can do. They're just looking to have a great product that can get them from point A to point B. And maybe they're going to have to compromise on one or two things, but hopefully that the simplicity and the ease of use of the product makes up for that difference. So that's our focus. And that's, comparing us to Kajabi, I think Kajabi is, there's much more that product can do. You're also going to pay for that, but you're also going to need to hire a consultant or something to help you get that far. And with us, our product is it's consultant free, meaning that you can do it all on your own. And I really like the idea of empowering our customers to be able to do everything for themselves. So that's a small take on it, but our focus is on just keeping it simple, keeping it easy for all of our customers.
Yeah, awesome. I know it's not an easy first question, but I thought it's such a good
throwing me into the walls.
Yeah, straight into it. Get into the ring. And I'm a Kajabi customer, and I'm also a Podia customer, just so you know. So, I'm familiar with both, and I love both. And Podia was my first SaaS software that I used besides the email ones.
Oh, cool.
Podia was my first one, probably a year and a half, 2 years ago now. And I still use it. And for a beginner, I mean, I can give an objective opinion, not just talking to you, I tell my customers. I've used a lot of the tools. If you are the least techie person and you want the easiest solution that's going to get you with no help, Podia is the way to go. It's the easiest one to use. And that's really I'm saying that legitimately, that's how I feel about it.
And also just to add to that, I think too, we are definitely best for people that are just starting out, without a doubt, but we do have, lots and lots of customers that are doing $1 million a year, hundreds of $1,000s a month. So we definitely cater to customers on all ends, the people making very little a month and the people making $100,000. You don't necessarily need a platform that can do everything under the sun to be successful. And that's one of the things I like to teach creators a lot about, is that you don't really need a complicated marketing stack. Only using our tool is enough to get you to earn millions of dollars a year. So you don't need to always chase, the most complicated tools and try to stitch it all together and stuff like that. So I agree with you that we are the best for beginners, but I think we are also great for people that have grown on our platform too.
Got it. Yeah. Awesome. I'll say, after I booked you, I did a little bit of research, Googled your name, read some articles, stuff, I looked at your background and stuff, gonna get in a sense. And I feel that you can tell me if that's accurate. It feels like to some degree Podia has been an evolution because you have 3 previous startups already, right?
Yeah, I have a long career.
What's that?
I said I have a long career despite being 37 years old. I've been doing this for 20 years.
Wow. Yeah. Because you did from straight in college even, you already did your first startup, right?
Yeah.
Amazing. And then did you have an exit with any of them? You've took one of them at least.
All 3 of my previous companies have all had exits.
Wow.
Yeah, and typically around the 4-year mark, I've sold the company, but now I'm going on 7 years with this. And, I feel like I could work on this for the rest of my life. That's how much I love this product, and I love our customers, and I love our community and stuff like that. And my team, I love our team. So whereas all the previous companies after year 4 or so, I was like, okay, time to go. With this, I think that, we're just getting started. But yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I actually applied to work for Podia about a year ago.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I did. I applied to be customer success, I think it was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there was a point you were hiring probably a year ago, year and a half, maybe a year and a half ago now, probably around June.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We ended up hiring Matt Ragland, who was a former ConvertKit employee. I wasn't part of that process, so sorry if I missed your application.
It's okay. No hard feelings. I figured you're probably getting a ton of them. But anyway, you mentioned about the team.
It's incredible how many. I mean, quick side note. It's incredible how many people apply for these roles. We're hiring for 6 different roles right now, and just looking at customer support by itself, we'll easily get 1,400, 1,500 applications for that role, which is crazy because we have to go through all those, and then obviously we have to find quote unquote the best person, and so it's really tough. It's really tough.
Did you say that again? Did you say 1,400?
Yeah.
1,400 applications.
Yeah, per job. It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, it's tough. And we try to make sure we go through every single application, try to sort people as best we can, but it's very difficult. And obviously sometimes we lose great candidates just because of just the sheer volume of people that are applying for these jobs.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Did you have the same situation at previous startups?
No, not necessarily. The previous startups definitely wasn't in the thousands of people. I think that we have more name recognition. I think we also have like a great team and culture that people really kind of gravitate to. I think we have a great product. I think also our market is very interesting. Yeah. Everyone wants to work or be part of the creator economy because it's the future. And it's also just getting started too. So I think it's like get in, while it's starting. So I think all those things taken together just adds to more and more people wanting to get involved. Yeah.
So then speaking about the creator economy and just getting started, because you're saying it like you've been in this game for 20 years, right? Which the point I was saying about you being in this for a long time, I feel that also maybe you have a bit of the mindset of it's really, you don't need a lot to get started. You just get started. And that's what you're trying to kind of show people, which is why you're keeping things very simple. You read the book Rework, I'm assuming? I
did, yeah.
I felt when I read Rework, I was like, I reckon you must have had some connection there because I felt it was very like the software is there unbloated, like the book says to do, very less features. In terms of the creator economy just starting, what's your take on that? Do you really believe it's just starting? Do you feel how much of a runway and like in terms of market saturation for online courses / communities / memberships? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, we're at the starting line still. And I'm not just saying that, I honestly believe that it's just getting started. We can look at our metrics and see how much has changed just over the last few years. COVID obviously had a huge bump for the industry. And I think, more and more people realize that they can, sell a product, whether it's a course or a download or a webinar or membership or community, whatever, to anyone, anywhere in the entire world. And so that's been really, really fascinating to see where, previously it was either in person, where you had just this really small group of people able to attend, but now it's everywhere. So I think, as technology becomes better and better, as internet connections become better and better across the world, as payments become better, as products become better, it's just going to grow faster and faster and faster. So yeah, so my take is really, again, like we're just starting. I think courses were definitely the entry point into this market and kind of helped jumpstart everything. But now we're starting to see other types of digital content really kind of grow quickly. Actually, I would say downloads were first, and then courses kind of began to grow and are still growing. But you've got all different types of digital content that's growing as well. Like live webinars, paid coaching, communities that are paid communities. And I think there's also a lot of future things that no one's thought of yet that are going to be other ways that people are going to sell content and interact with their audience. So very, very excited about the future. But yeah, I really do believe it's just getting started. So
yeah, interesting. That's great. That's great to get that insight. Because you've been in the game. I've only been in the game for 4 years, just the entrepreneurial game and social media. I didn't even have a Facebook account 4 years ago. So to me, all this stuff is all very new to me, relatively compared to 20 years. So very interesting to hear that. And then obviously you've recently made a transition to community. You've now got a community feature, which I think it's great you do that, because there isn't a lot of options out there for that yet. There's actually, it's good. I think it came to market really, really early. Mighty Network, Circle, Tribe, those are kind of the ones that I can think of. The rest you barely know about, so I think you guys are pretty early, even ahead of Kajabi.
I would say obviously outside of Facebook groups and Slack, Facebook groups dominates the market. We did a bunch of research on this, and it was something like 92% of people, of creators, use Facebook groups still today to run their communities. And that was with hundreds and hundreds of survey responses. But I mean, we all know that Facebook has its issues, both politically, but also privacy, security, content ownership. You're playing in someone else's playground when you have a Facebook group and stuff like that. So I do think that the independent solution like ours is great for creators that want to own their customers, own their list, that sort of thing. So, but to your broader point, I do think community is one of the next sort of phases in the creator economy that's going to be just supported by courses and downloads and all these other types of content. Especially in our solution, which is really to have everything in one place. It makes it a lot easier for you to, sell someone a course or sell someone a download, and then also funnel them into your community and maintain them as a customer of yours and as an audience member and a contributor. So really, really excited about community. I do think it's like hopefully one of the next big things in the creator economy.
Yeah, totally. I did Tribe with Stu McLaren, the course on how to build a memberships, and started my own membership recently and kind of have it going up and so on. And he brings up a lot of times, because he was the owner of Wishlist. And he said when he looking at the stats, there was thousands of this and thousands of that. How much numbers do you as the CEO of Podia actually get to see on the back end of the sky view of what's going on in the courses community? How much can you how much can you share some insights about that but us humanoids who are down in the street level don't see?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to share selective numbers. If you have a specific question, I can try to answer those. But I would say that there's a lot of interesting things that we see in our research. We're actually just starting to begin to publish some of that macro trend data. So we've been doing a lot of work over the last 6 months to organize all the data. And we're going to be beginning to release new articles and videos that share a lot of that data. So I'll wait for that to share the big stuff. But if you have any specific questions, happy to answer those.
I think, in terms of courses and stuff, I'd love to know if you have some indication on price points. I know people are always used to know about price points. Is there like an average price points of success versus not, or anything like that?
So a lot of our data is going to be that we're going to share in our research is going to be around price. So that's one of the things that we're going to be sharing. I think where it gets really interesting when you think about price is that there's a lot of different things you need to consider.
Of course,
you need to consider the market you're in. You need to consider, the appetite of your customers. You need to consider how much your customers can pay. You need to consider like what type of course you're going to offer. So there's a lot of different things. Thankfully, all this research that we've been doing internally, we sort of sliced and diced all the data. And so we're going to be able to neatly share all that stuff with you. I don't off the top of my head have a like very specific answer I can give you just because there are so many variables.
Yeah.
But when you read that report, and I'll share it with you, so you can share it with your audience. But when you do read that report, we're going to have done all that slicing and dicing for you so that you can kind of just look at it and find like what you need specifically for yourself. I mean, for example, my wife sells a course that's $500 flat fee. And then there's, other people that sell courses for $50. And I think one of the things you just need to consider is, and this is kind of a broad, most people know this, but, if you do sell those high priced courses, how many people can you convince to buy that versus like a lower price course, you're probably gonna be able to reach more people. And you sort of have to do that math in your head. So like, is it easier for me to find one person to pay $500 or to find 10 people to pay $50? And like, how is that going to net a positive result for my business? And do I want to have fewer customers paying higher, or do I want to have more customers paying a smaller fee too? So, how much can you support too? It's much easier to support one person than it is to support 10. So pricing is important from, how many sales you can make, but it's also important for what kind of business you want to run as well.
Yeah, totally agree. And when I hear people give that analogy about, is it easier to make 100 grand for 10 customers paying you 10,000 or 10,000 paying $10? I always go toward, of course, it's easier to do 10 people for 10,000, but I want to help 10,000 people. So I'd rather sell them $10. So it really is a choice.
Yeah. And actually, if you go back to our previous conversation about our, the Kajabi Lite, as you termed it. So we have a much lower price point. And one of the things that we set out to do was to make our product available to as many people as possible. So I'd rather reach tens of thousands of customers and help them become creators than only reach 500 customers but make them pay tons of money. Because for me, it's more important to sort of spread the love basically and grow the market. And it's not even a financial consideration for me. It's more just like, I personally want to help more people become creators.
Yeah. Do you see yourself having an exit from Podia anytime soon?
No plans to do that. As I mentioned earlier, like I love this business, and not just in the like financial sense. I love our customers. I love our product. I love our employees. I love the market. It's really fun and satisfying as a business owner to help your customers make money. That is like so fun. So we always celebrate really big wins from our customers and internally and things like that. So no plans or anything. Just continuing to kind of grow the business and turn more people into creators.
Am I allowed to ask, did you end up taking investor capital on
Yeah, you can ask that.
Okay.
Yeah, we have raised money in the past. We haven't raised money for over 2 years now, and we're a profitable business, so we're unlikely to raise any more money. But nothing is kind of off the table, so to speak. Like, some people are like, "Oh, you're gonna raise more money," and I always say, "Today, if you ask me that question, am I gonna raise more money today?" The answer would be no. But who knows a year from now or 2 years from now, like where the business is going to be at, where the market's going to be at, where my personal mindset's going to be at, etc.
I read in some interview, it's interesting. So some interviews you mentioned, I think when the first investment was accidental type thing.
Yeah.
Or something like that. But then you end up taking it and it was like a good thing because it puts the pressure on to really get results. Is that accurate from what I read?
Yeah. So just for some context. So my first 3 businesses, I never raised any money. Bootstrapped them is the term.
Yes.
And then with this business too, I wasn't planning on raising any money. I was just kind of working on it on my own time. And I was introduced to an investor in Brooklyn, which is where I live. And he was like, "Oh, just let's meet outside and there's a beer garden." He's like, "Oh, let's meet at this beer garden." And I just happened to have my laptop with me, and he's like, "Oh, what are you working on?" I showed him some like screenshots and stuff like that, and he was like, "Oh, that's awesome." And like, "Are you interested in taking money?" And I was like, "Well, I hadn't thought about it." And then 2 days later, he sent me a term sheet, and was like, here's $500,000. Do you want to like partner up? And I thought about it and I said, sure.
Wow.
Yeah, like why not? Let's do it. So we did raise a small round of financing then, and then we've raised a little bit more since. But yeah, I hadn't intended to raise more money for it, but I am very happy I did because it really helped us get started faster.
Wow.
Able to hire some employees and build the product faster.
Interesting. How many employees do you have?
We have 27.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's all remote primarily?
Yes. Yeah. We've always been remote. So even pre-COVID, we've been a fully remote team. So we are everywhere in the United States. We are in Canada, Ireland, Portugal, Spain, Brazil, Bulgaria, England.
Wow.
I hopefully didn't forget any. Oh, yeah, that's it, I think.
Yeah. Very cool. But nobody in Australia. See, that's the problem.
No, not yet. No, not yet. It's difficult because the one thing about working remotely is that having time zones overlap is so important. So we try to have like a 4 to 5 hour overlap with everyone on the team. So our headquarters is technically New York City. So kind of East Coast of the US. We try to hire just from like the West Coast of the US all the way to like basically Eastern Europe. Yeah.
Awesome.
But we have a lot of customers in Australia.
Yeah, you do. Well, you guys want to talk to you right now. So yeah, you do. You definitely do. So that's awesome. Where's the bulk of your customers, by the way? Is it just US mostly or?
No, US is just under 50% of our customer base.
Really?
So we have tons of customers in Europe, Australia, Canada, South America. Not too many in Asia because we don't support translations for Asian languages right now. So it's mostly kind of Europe, South America, North America, Australia.
Interesting. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about the feature process of you as a CEO. How does that occur? Because I know I'm a customer, and I've occasionally said, "Can you do blah? Why don't you do blah?" I think I'm fairly reasonable because I like the workarounds as well. I can figure it out. But like, if you get 1,400 applications for a job, I want to know a little bit about your feature request process.
Yeah, sure. So it's one of the most difficult things when you're developing software is to figure out how you're going to spend your resources. So say you have 10 developers, whatever. There's only a certain number of hours per week where you can spend time on features, and you have to think about both your existing customers and their needs. You have to think about the customers that don't know about you yet and their needs, and you need to think about how important is every single request. So there's also you also have to think about like all the features that you can build that no one has ever requested, right? Because you have to continue to innovate and think about like, where can we be? Like, so for example, with community, like that was a feature that we started working on a while ago, but it wasn't a feature that we really got requests for. It wasn't really, because it's not something that really exists in the market. And so we had to take the chance to build this feature, even though, some of our existing customers weren't even asking for it, right? So yeah, it's a huge balancing act that you have to sort of manage, and it's mostly on my shoulders. So I definitely feel like a lot of stress from it, because we will get people writing in every single day, like, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you do this? And even when the request is very quote unquote simple and something we would like to do, it still needs to find its way into a priority list, and when you're getting probably dozens of requests every single week, it just continues to add up and add up and add up. So, and then the question too is like, okay, so you want that feature, but how many other people like you want it? Or maybe you want that feature, but it's going to hurt someone else's experience using the product, right? Yeah. So there's just a ton of different balancing acts that you have to do. So it's tough.
Would you say it's one of the top up there in terms of the most challenging stuff on software and being a software SaaS company?
I'd say it's number one, honestly,
really?
Because Yeah, yeah. And I actually tweeted about this a couple of days ago about
Oh, wow.
even with bugs, for example. So I tweeted something like the best people, the best product or software developers or product people, one of the talents is to being able to say what bugs are important and what bugs are not. Because sometimes, there's software just has bugs. It's just, everyone knows that. Like every piece of software, even if you have 10,000 engineers, has bugs. Like, look at Facebook; they just went down first.
Right.
Everything has issues, and so you really have to be able to learn to prioritize things and figure out like what's going to have the highest impact for the least amount of work, versus something that takes a ton of work and has a very little impact. So it's a constant balancing act, and it's very, very tricky. Because you could spend your whole work week, like we could spend our whole work week just working on little things all the time, but then our product would stagnate and it wouldn't grow and it would become obsolete over time. So we have to dedicate a certain amount of resources to building for what we call building for the future, which is one of our 4 principles is building for the future. So it's very tough. It's very tough.
Yeah.
We could have a whole podcast about that.
I can imagine. What will be the I guess if I'm a customer, I'm a newbie customer to Podia who just joined and wants to request, what's my cause level that I can do that could actually influence something? What could I do that will be helpful for you as a company and actually maybe, get what I want?
Yeah, I mean, so we constantly get feedback all the time from customers, whether it's over live chat or whether it's over email, or it's social media or whatever. We constantly get feedback. So just sending us your feedback is always important, and we always look at it. It never goes nowhere. So sometimes people say, "Oh, thank you for the idea. Like I will share it with my team." We actually do share it with our team, and we actually do think about the feature requests that we get. But of course, like not every feature request or every kind of bug report can get fixed like this,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just keep sending it to us, keep sending it to other software you use. Like I think most people appreciate it. But yeah, it's, there's only so many hours in the week, basically.
Totally. I'm surprised on the community. You're saying you didn't have a hell of a lot of requests on the community side? So
with that feature specifically, I definitely thought more about like, where's the market heading and where I feel like our customers would benefit most from. So I think people were asking for features that were community related without asking for something like community. So, oh, I want to be able to create topics, oh, I want to be able to have my members make posts and comment. So they were asking for it without asking for it, if that makes sense. So sometimes it's really important to, like, as a product person, is to read between the lines, right? So if someone asks for something, what are they actually trying to do? And so that's where I spent a lot of my time, where someone could be like, hey, I really wish that my members could make a post. And that's like, yeah, I agree. Like, that's a great feature. We should add that, but like, what does that really mean? Like, what are they really trying to achieve? And so you got to sort of distill that, figure it out, and then build it into a product. So
interesting.
It's tricky.
Yeah. How much time of your, because you said this is number one thing. So being the CEO, if it's the number one thing, how much time that week does that consume?
Yeah. So I'm abnormal in that I spend a lot of my time, probably at least 50% of my time, working on our product.
Right.
So, I am not only the CEO, but I'm also kind of the chief product officer or head of product or whatever you would say. So I spend a lot of time in it. So I've been working now for 4.5 hours today. I've probably spent 2.5 hours on it so far. Wow. So yeah, it's about half my day is spent doing that. But we have a super, super amazing team. So as we've grown, I've been able to spend less time doing it. And training other people up and that sort of thing. But I think it's very, very important as the CEO to have like a really good pulse on the product and what your customers are looking for, what the future of the market is, that sort of thing. And so that's why I spend a lot of my time there. I've seen too many companies where the CEO who worked on a lot of product in the early days is no longer doing it, and then the product becomes a mess because of it. So I try to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Yeah, makes sense. Is your background, you software developer, software engineer, or what's your background?
In a previous life, yes. When I was a lot younger, in college, I went to school for computer science and psychology. And during my high school years and some of my 20s, I did a lot of programming, but I don't do any anymore. I realized that it took a lot of work for me to be able to do it. And sometimes, like with a lot of developers I work with, it seems like they just like are more naturally gifted than I am. And I just wasn't a very naturally gifted developer. It took me like 15 hours to do something that it would take someone like 3 hours to do.
I get it.
Yeah.
Out of all the roles you have as the CEO, the roles in the company, what part of it do you love the most? But like, if you could do that all day, you'd do that all day, and you would outsource the rest. What would that be?
So the product stuff I mentioned, that is where my heart is. I really love
development.
Yeah, product development, not the coding, but like conceptualizing the features and talking to the customers to figure out their needs and figuring out like how is that going to fit into our product. That's the kind of stuff that I love to do. I love interacting with customers too. So I've done, at this point, I've probably done 10 to 20,000 live chats with customers. Probably more like, actually, that's probably on the low end. Probably more like 25,000
text chats, is it?
Yeah, like live chats, or videos. Like for example, last week I did a demo to almost 400 people.
Wow.
Podia customers on the community launch. So I love doing that kind of stuff too. But it's very draining.
Yeah.
To present to people and do that. So, but I still love it. I'm just not as young as I once was.
Yeah, I get it. In terms of the community side, I mean, I think it's a good gamble you took personally. I think there is one challenge that I know me as a customer I face. And I guess, I don't know, you probably don't even have stats to even know yet, but me as a Podia customer or a course creator or membership site owner, I want to have my community outside of Facebook. I want to have it elsewhere. I prefer it that way. My challenge is, how do I get my customers to be there?
Yeah.
How do you foresee yourself overcoming that?
So do you mean in terms of migrating them from Facebook technically, or do you mean just like the mindset?
The engagement and the habits, because people are used to being on Facebook all day. So therefore being in a group, it's easier to get the engagement. Whereas if I have to get into an external app or a website to do that.
So that's one of the, so I think if we were strictly a community platform, I would worry about that more, because that's really tough. Like if the only thing that you do is offer community software, it's going to be very difficult to switch people from a product like Facebook. It's a really difficult ask. I think the big advantage that we have as a platform is that if you are already selling courses, you're already selling downloads and webinars and coaching to these customer base, and they're already using your account there, and to watch their courses or to download their things or join the webinars, etc. It makes that transition process a little bit easier because they're already there. And so that's one of the things that we're banking on in terms of like why our product differentiation is better for people that want community. I think another thing too is that Facebook is volatile. I think that I'm worried about, to say the least, I think it is the right strategic move as a creator to get off Facebook groups at some point. And I know it's difficult. I know it's tricky. It's, well, my customers are here. Like, I got to move them here. Like, what's going to happen? But I think long-term, you're going to benefit from it, even though there might be some short-term agony. So one thing that we've actually already started to see, because we're seeing a lot of people move off Facebook groups, is that they're running their paid community on our platform. And then they're using like their Facebook groups as a free sort of lead source thing. And then they're moving them into this other more dedicated space. But I think that's just the start. And then we'll see what Facebook groups does over the next, 2-3 years as a product. And we'll see kind of what regulations happen with Facebook and that sort of thing. So I think it's always nerve-wracking for creators to be beholden to like this huge $1 trillion company. And so I think there's that risk there. about not owning your customers that we cater towards and we can help you solve.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Very interesting. How involved are you in the day-to-day of Podia?
Extremely.
Extremely involved. Like,
yeah.
Like, are you like an 80-hour-a-week CEO, or are you like a relaxing on the beach CEO with occasional, like, what's the lifestyle of a CEO really?
Definitely not relaxing on the beach, CEO. You know, I don't count hours, so I don't track my hours. So I don't know exactly like how many hours I'm working. I work like at my desk, pretty standard, like 8 to 4, 8 to 5, not 4, 8 to 5 hours, Monday through Friday. But then I will be, you know, checking things at night, and I'll be checking things on the weekends. I'm always kind of connected, whether it's my like Apple Watch or my phone or my computer. So, you know, you could probably say I was working 80 hours, but it doesn't feel like work outside of those hours. So, you know, maybe I'll check an email, or I'll look at a Basecamp post, or I'll check Slack or something like that. But I really enjoy what I do. So it's not so much work for me. So I have my like standard kind of Monday through Friday time that I kind of have, but then I will like look at things, you know, throughout the weekend, evenings, etc.
It's interesting you have a 9 to 5, but it's interesting you maintain that schedule. Is there a reason like why that kind of works for you, or?
It just, I mean, I wake up pretty early these days. I probably wake up at like 6 or 6:30 in the morning every day now. And I just kind of have this routine of, you know, I do the dishes from the night before. I make my coffee. I have a piece of toast. I bring it to my laptop, and I just kind of get started, sort of thing. Actually, my iMac rather. And I just kind of get started, and then, you know, at a certain point, I'll break for lunch. I'll eat for half an hour, and then, you know, by the time 4 or 5 o'clock rolls around, half of our team is done for the day because they're in, you know, Europe, etc. And then the other half of the team is kind of in the sort of like the last few hours of their workday. And so there just isn't as many people online at that point to like interact with and work with. So my day kind of just naturally ends around, you know, 4:35, that sort of thing. And then, yeah, just start it all back up in the next day.
Interesting. That's great.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Now, you know, in terms of a mentor for you personally, I mean, I read online, your dad seems to be like quite a successful, I think it was a professor of university. Was it?
Yeah. Both my parents are retired Yale professors.
Yeah. Both of them, right?
Yeah.
So I assume that go on.
I was going to say my dad is one of the inspirations for this company because little known fact, but he had one of the first online courses ever on the internet in 2010 in a conjunction with Yale, and they posted all of his classes on YouTube, and his classes, each individual video has reached over 1 million views. So he's had a lot of success in the online course market.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Are those videos still available?
Yeah, still available. If you Google, or not Google, if you YouTube Paul, P-A-U-L, space Fry, F-R-Y, and then Yale, probably, you can see a bunch of videos that from 2010. Yeah.
Wow. Very cool. So then how much of it, I mean, when I read that, I thought like, you know, obviously that must have been a huge effect on how you ended up doing what you're doing and so on. Can you tell me a little bit about that, and from a mentorship perspective, and how did that affect you and all that?
Yeah, so my parents are not tech savvy at all. You know, whenever I'm home, I'm, you know, helping them set up their Roku or fixing this computer issue, or, you know, some spyware or something. Like, I'm always constantly helping them. But they definitely were, you know, very hard workers, really cared about their customers, aka their students, that kind of thing. So I definitely learned a lot from them. In terms of like technology mentors, more in my field. So we have a board of directors with some great people on it. But we have some great investors that I talk to quite often. And then just peers often. So like other startup founders and CEOs that I communicate with, you know, get coffee with, or, you know, have dinner with, that sort of thing. Yeah, I've got quite a few, I guess. But different people are good at different things, right? So, you know, I might talk to this person about X, and I might talk to this person about Y. It's tough to find like a single mentor who's good at everything, or at least I haven't found that person yet.
Yeah. Interesting. I'll tell you, one of the reasons I wanted to get software CEOs on is because I'm a little bit jaded with the online space with a lot of coaches who are just whatever, like in my opinion, right? So it can get a little bit over the top, a lot of marketing hype and stuff like that. And I just love talking to like CEOs of real companies who actually found a problem, finding a service and stuff like that. And I love that. And I like software as well. I'm not a developer, but I'm kind of aspiring to learn to do stuff like that. Definitely not something at the scale of Podia or Kajabi or like none of that. That's just like, I'd rather do the tiny ones that solve a tiny problem. But it's interesting to see, like, even though you hear this brand Podia and the CEO, well, just stroll out of bed, have a coffee, have a toast. You're just normal people. Just normal people, really. Just entrepreneurs who like to do what they do. And
it's fun to me, like I'm definitely no like celebrity or anything like that. I walk down the street and no one knows who I am or anything. So which is actually one of the benefits of living in New York City versus San Francisco is that people are like, oh, you do tech? What's that? Like no one knows.
Right.
Because they're doing like fashion or advertising or banking or anything else. And so the tech community in New York City, even though I've been a part of it now for 15 years, is still like really small. Yeah.
Wow.
I forgot to mention too, I do have a CEO coach that I work with, and she's great. So she helps me with a lot of things too. I probably meet with her maybe on average about once a month for an hour. But she's fantastic too. So yeah.
Wow. A CEO coach, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Could you share prices on that? Are you able to share prices on that?
I mean, sure. She's $500 an hour. So she's not cheap.
Okay.
But it's not
reasonable.
It's not inexpensive, but it's definitely out of most people's price range. Like if my company wasn't paying for it, I would not hire her.
Really?
I would not be able to afford $500 an hour. Let's just say that. But she's fantastic. I think one of the things that we're talking about mentors. So one of my friends is a really successful startup person, CEO. And I was asking him about, whether or not I should pay this person, that quote unquote $10,000 a year it might cost. And he made a really, really good point where he said, basically, do you think this person will have a greater than 10,000 a year net boost to your company? And when he put it like that, I was like, actually, she is inexpensive because, if she can help me think through some of these issues over the course of the year, I guarantee she's going to be able to earn her keep, you know what I mean? In the sense that like, she'll be more beneficial than 10,000 a year. And she totally has. Like, I can't put like a dollar amount on it, but she's probably paid off herself, 25 times. So like,
wow.
10,000 I've paid her has probably been like $250,000 or $500,000 in value, if not higher. So yeah, it's always relative. So you think $500 an hour is going to be really expensive, but actually maybe it nets you way more money. So
yeah. I thought, oh, it's 500. It's not so bad, actually.
I have friends that have CEO coaches that are $1,000 an hour, $1,500 an hour, et cetera. But I think, prices and everything.
Yeah, totally.
Price doesn't always mean better.
No, definitely not. Tell me a little bit about the network of the software CEOs. How does that club come together? Is there like a membership you're all a part of? Is it just like Joe meet Bill? How does that evolve? And who's the ones you can tell me that you kind of know and connect and stuff like that?
Sure. Yeah. So I think my context is different than most people's because I moved to New York City when I was 22 years old, right after graduating college. And I've been here now for 16 years. So, 37, turning 38. But when I first moved to New York, there was a very, very, very small tech community. But I was like, oh, I just moved to New York. I want to meet some people. Like, let me join the meetups and stuff like that. And at the time, there was a really small New York City tech meetup called the New York City Tech Meetup, which now has hundreds of thousands of members. But at the time, there was only about 25, 30 people. And these were all some of the earliest people in New York City tech. Like the founder of Meetup, but then the founder of like Tumblr and the founder of all sorts of startups that you could have, Harvest, tons of New York City, Foursquare, all these companies. And so, but we all were just like young and dumb and, would just like share advice and, go out and get ramen and stuff like that. And I sort of kept in touch with all those people. So, those are people I still talk to today and, not weekly, probably like maybe once a month, that sort of thing. But most of my like connections to the tech world go back to those early days in New York City. And of course, they've expanded a bit over time, but pretty much have the same sort of core group of friends from back then. So a lot of it's timing.
Yeah, wow. What did you say? CEO of Tumblr and CEO of Meetup?
CEO of like Tumblr, Meetup, Harvest, Foursquare, tons of other ones that I can't think of off the top of my head, but yeah, that those early days were in New York City, the tech community were really amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, we were all just trying to like start stuff. So this was in 2005, 2006.
What's the mentality of that 22-year-old, all these young people? Like, is it a competitive edge? Is it like you're all just hustlers? Are you just like geeks? What's the motive for that mentality?
So I think at the time, most people were just like really just trying to figure things out and be very supportive of each other. I think there wasn't competition in the sense of like, oh, I want to do better than you, but it was kind of like, oh, I'm seeing this person do all these things. Like it's more motivation, right? So like I loved going to those events and having those like coffees and dinners and stuff like that, because I would always come away from it with like 24 to 48 hours of like intense focus, just like the inspiration of everything. And so it really would help me like drive things forward, but it wasn't so much like, I got to do better than you or whatever,
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was great. I miss those days sometimes.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. And I can see how the connections will end up, and I could see the value of talking to them as well, because obviously they're experiencing it in a different similar markets, similar space.
I think one of the interesting things about software development is that whether or not we're in the same market or not, there's always things that we can learn from each other.
Yeah.
So I always find like useful tidbits of anything from anyone, just, regardless of what market they're in.
Yeah. So I'm an aspiring software CEO, not a big one, but a small software tools to solve problems. I got one developed 2 weeks ago to solve a problem I had, which was just such a big problem, but just annoying and time consuming. Saves me a ton of time. What would be your advice for me to take it to market, do something with it, and grow it in some way, whether it's whatever? Like, what would your advice?
So it's tough to give advice until I know more about what the product is and what it does and who the market is and that kind of thing. But generally, I think when you're launching a product, I think people put way too much emphasis on the launch. Whether it's online courses or whether it's digital products or whether it's like software, the launch is just a very minor thing, and most people don't care. Like, cool, you launch your software, like whatever, I'm gonna browse away. So I think it's one of those things where it's like launching is very important, but really the milestone you're really kind of achieving when you launch is just to have something in the world that you can start to get feedback from. So that's kind of what I tend to tell people. It's just like, get the thing done. Don't worry about like making $1 million on the first week or the first day or the first month. Just get that product into the world and then start to just continue to make it better. And that's kind of like my philosophy on all of this, is just to release and then iterate. So, you got that product out there, whatever kind of product it is, get it out there, get some people to use it, iterate on it, make it better. And the great thing about software and digital products in general, courses, et cetera, is that you can always improve them over time. So you can always spend more hours. And even if you spend 1 hour a week, you're going to be able to improve it in some way. So even if you make it 1% better every single week, there's that compounding interest where it's going to continue to just evolve. So I can help you give some launch strategies, but I think like that's the more important macro take.
Yeah. Awesome. Is there any particular books, training, anything like that you'd recommend?
Um, I can follow up with you on some things. I think for me, I tend to listen to a lot of podcasts these days.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not able to read quite as much as I once was. So I listen to a lot of podcasts. I read a lot of articles. You know, and I don't tend to like dive into those 400-page books as much these days as I once did. It's almost like at the end of the evening, it's like, should I, hang out with my wife and my dog and do this, or should I go dive into this thick book?
Yeah.
So
and the wife wins every time.
Exactly. So I do. There are books that I like and I've read and really recommend, that kind of thing. But these days I'm definitely getting more. I'm just getting a ton of different sources all the time and more short form. I still like Twitter. I think there's quite a bit of like good content that's shared on Twitter. Wow. That can lead you into good articles and down the rabbit hole on certain things. And then my friends and I share text threads of various articles that we think we should read and stuff like that. Yeah.
Interesting. Have you found that the evolution of you being a CEO has also changed in terms of how you consume content to learn and iterate and stuff like that?
Yeah, definitely. I'm a big proponent of just learning by doing also. And that's just for me personally. I think, my wife is definitely more of the like, I'm going to buy 10 books, consume them all and learn a subject. Whereas I'm kind of like, I will read half a book and I will just dive right in and just get doing. And then I'm going to learn from my mistakes and that sort of thing. So they're definitely different approaches. Her approach is great for people that really want to have that sort of security of underlying knowledge. And then my approach is good for people that just are like, let's do this thing.
Bit of a wild man entrepreneurs.
Yeah, exactly. But I do where I spend most of my time in terms of like research is just trying to figure out like the market and trying to figure out like where is it heading. So I'll follow a lot of creator blogs. I'll follow a lot of online publications. I will consume a lot of content. I'll look at like, what are they doing on Twitch? I'll look at like, what are they doing on Facebook groups? Like I'll always be trying to keep my pulse and eye on the market, which takes a lot of time. Like it takes easily an hour a day just to kind of keep up to with everything.
Totally. Do you ever get a, this kind of goes back to the feature request, but not really feature request. Do you ever go into other people's software or tools and get inspired to figure out how you can replicate or do it better?
So I don't, and it's always funny because every other day a competitor signs up for an account with us to see what we're doing, and so it seems like John at name a competitor will have like 10 accounts with us, right? So I think people are looking at us a lot more in terms of what we're doing, because I think we have been on the forefront of like innovation, especially with community, but also with our webinar feature and our coaching feature and live chat. And we've got a lot of different features that are pushing the market forward. And so I would be happy, this is going to sound mean, I would be happier to look at our competitors' products more and get inspired if they were doing anything innovative, but they're not. So I tend to look at, I'm being serious, but also joking.
I get it.
But I tend to look at like the space more. So, if Twitch, for example, comes out with a new feature that's really interesting and cool, like that might inspire me. So it's like related to what we do, but it's not like specifically our product. So one of the things I also talk about too is that if you're only looking at your competitors, what their products are, what they're doing, et cetera, then you're just going to eventually build the same product as them, right? And that's not interesting for me. Like what's interesting for me is just to chart our own path. So I can't even remember the last time I looked at any of what our competitors are doing, to be honest. Like it's been years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. I probably look at your competitors. I mean,
that's another. I will say that, like,
go on.
Really quick, I would say that one thing, our customers will tell us.
Yeah.
So I do hear through the grapevine, like, oh, like this competitor released this feature, and what are your thoughts on it? So it's not that I'm like completely ignorant.
Yeah.
It's that I don't need to go and figured it out on my own. And also, I'll also say it's actually really more important when a customer tells me what they think is cool about a competitor versus me going and figuring it out, because then it's more natural, but it makes more sense if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, it goes back to what you said, which is at the end of the day, like market research is get something out there, get your customers to give you feedback, and you build something around them.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I wholeheartedly agree with the customer, like that reiteration. Half a book, screw reading half a book. I'm like, read 2 pages and go talk to a customer.
Yeah, half a book was me being generous.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. No, that's exactly right.
Yeah. I will say one thing about books. When I do read a book, it's when there's this very specific topic.
Yes.
And it tends to, so for example, like I'll read a book on like recruiting, or I'll read a book on like performance management or something like that. Like I'll read something that's more company level versus like more in the business versus like the product.
I get it. Makes sense. But I guess that's the stage you're in as well in your business. Whereas probably 20 years ago, you wouldn't think about reading anything to do with recruitment. That just wasn't on the radar. Yeah. I find that fascinating also for me as things evolve. Also, like the things that I thought were interesting a year ago, I just go like, I don't want to spend time on this anymore. It's just different problems. You want to solve different problems. So it's interesting.
Yeah. That's one of the things I like the most about working at this company, is that everything is just completely evolving all the time. And so my day job is never the same. And I'm always having to constantly learn new skills. And I'll make screw ups and I'll learn from them and I'll fix them. So yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, it's awesome. I had a question about retention, not your as a company, but you might not be able to answer me. Maybe that's part of the analytics you might put out. But I'm really curious about the retention of retention/consumption of course content, right? So you've got a lot of courses on the platform, thousands, maybe tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. Yeah. Do you have some estimate on how much of that actually gets consumed, or what type of course, what length of course is the most consumable? I mean, I can assume the shorter ones are better, but do you have any insights on that?
So you're right that that's going to come out as part of our research, and I don't want to give you the wrong numbers on this podcast. So I would say wait and find out. Sure. Other than to say that, again, there's a really wide range, and I think how much you pay also impacts the consumption, right? So if you pay more, you're going to probably spend more time in that course. You're going to more likely to finish it than if you pay less. And that's just human behavior, right? So, if I buy something for $10, I'm going to treat it less well than if I buy something for $100, right? Because I feel like there's more value. So that's like a little insight, but more coming soon. And like with lots of numbers and stuff.
Interesting. These are probably because when I asked pricing, retention, consumption, I think these are the two things because I think these are the two most important metrics on, number one, building a profitable business. Number two, delivering the transformation, which results in, so I'm curious to see what those numbers are. I can tell you that for me, I'm building my entire business on tiny products, tiny offers, tiny solutions, tiny ebooks, tiny courses, because I feel that the longer ones, I personally hate it, the longer ones. So anyway, that's why it definitely depends. Like my wife loves the $2,000, $3,000 courses, and we'll spend hours and hours, but just different brain, different person. Whereas I prefer the like short, 1 hour courses basically. But it just like completely depends on the subject matter, that sort of thing. Interesting. Awesome. Well, let me run through any questions that people have. The questions are some of them are good. I mean, I'll just let you answer. It's probably going to not maybe as interesting, but I'll just ask it anyway, just because I want to cover them. So one lady asked, do I need a CRM system if I have Podia?
You don't. We have a built-in CRM, but it depends on what you need. If you need fancy bells and whistles and stuff like that, We might not have all those CRM style features, but we certainly have like a list of your customers, individual profiles for each customer, metadata, purchase history, like all that kind of stuff. So we do have quite a bit of things. We might not have like all the specifics you might need, but if you contact us on customer support, we have live chat 7 days a week. Let us know what you're looking for, and we can help you out there.
Yeah. Okay, cool. They ask what integrations you have. I think I'll just leave the support document that explains the integrations.
Sure, I can speak to it to 10 seconds, but yeah, we have email service provider integrations with I think 7 different platforms, Zoom integration, Zapier integration, and then we support over 1,900 embeddable media types, so tons.
Yeah. That reminds me, why do you not have the API open to like Publi and the world, like those other integration software versus, because you don't have it, Flawless doesn't have it, and Kajabi doesn't have it. The 3 tools that I use, none of them have the API open. Why? Can you explain to me logically? Like,
so we will. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, so it comes back to like how I develop software. So this isn't everyone's philosophy, but my philosophy with software development is to basically finish the foundation of the house, then finish the first floor of the house. And then at that point, when you're trying to like build the second floor and whatever, that's when the API can be built. Because I think one of the issues is that sometimes people build APIs too early, like when they're still working on the foundation, and then they have to scramble to either support stuff that they wish they hadn't supported in the first place, or everything changes. And so we're waiting until that kind of first floor is completed, which is fairly soon. So I think you can expect an API from us in the next probably 12 to 18 months.
Okay.
But yeah, not quite yet. But on the roadmap.
Okay. I'm not asking as a feature request. I'm curious, purely curious.
No, sure. Yeah. Hopefully that helps. But yeah, I can speak more to that, but I don't want to bore you.
yeah, totally. Just pure curiosity. I mean, the 3 ones that I use the most, I'm like, you guys are killing me here.
Yeah. Anyway. It's a lot to support and maintain too.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah,
I get it. Okay, another question that reminds me. The community. I tell you what I like about. Let's say, I don't know if I like it about ClickFunnels. I used to like it. I think the community kind of got damaged, but they had a really good community before. I think Kajabi has a decent community. Zenler has a good community. Podia has no community in terms of like a Facebook group. What's the thought process, logic? Why did you try it before? Love to know a little bit more about it.
So it's coming on our product. So we wanted to launch our community feature first, and now one of the next things our marketing team is doing is putting together a community for all of our customers. But we wanted to use it on our product because we didn't want to have a community on like Facebook groups because that sort of defeats the purpose of the feature.
I love that. Would you have free customers on it, or that just paying customers on Podia's community?
So we don't have free customers because we have a free trial. We don't have so it's going to be it'll be only paying customers on it. We have to sort of work out some of the details. Like, for example, if you were to cancel your account with us, would we remove you from the community or not? So some of the details still need to be worked out, but hopefully, I think we'll likely launch it this year, but I don't yet have a date on it. I've got a call after this in an hour, and I'll bring it up and ask them.
I'd love to know. Okay, here's another question. This is a big draw thing for me for Kajabi / ClickFunnels. You know how they have the different levels, Kajabi Hero and the 2 Comma Club Award and all that. What's your take on that from a company perspective from Podia?
So like, you mean like they give them rewards?
Yeah.
I'm not familiar.
Yeah, they give them awards. Like when you hit $1 million of ClickFunnels, you get 2 Comma Club Awards.
Cool.
And then when you have in Kajabi, every time like you make your first grant, you get, I think they gave me socks. Like they sent me socks in the mail, and then 10,000 they gave me a t-shirt, and then a pin, and then there's level 50 and then 100 and then 250 and 500 and $1 million, and they send you like merch every time you
So I guess that's similar to YouTube, because I think YouTube does like 100,000
for 100,000 and a million. That's
million.
right.
Yeah. So we have talked about that internally, and we actually do send a lot of swag. Just contact us on customer support. We can send you some stuff.
You do send swag?
We do, but we do it more like if someone asks for it. So tell me you spoke to me, and I'll hook you up. But yeah, we have thought about doing that too. I think, you know, not to sound like a negative Nancy or whatever, but all of it just takes work, you know? And
Sure.
So it's like, you got to set it up. You got to get the process in place. You got to, you know, design the things and send the things. And so yeah, it's always an evolution. And I think like we want to do more of that stuff. You know, you reminded me, because I've thought about this many times throughout the years. But again, like back to that sort of priority listing,
totally.
Like something new will come in and then it will get bumped down and down and down. But then I'll talk to you and I'll go back up a few spots, you know, in the ladder. But yeah, that's why customer feedback is so important, by the way, because everything always changes. Like 3 years ago, someone might have a feature request that they would never, ever have today. And so it's always important for all this stuff to kind of bubble back up.
Totally. And I'll be straight, like Kajabi, to me, like the fact that you've got the, it's a good product in many ways. In some ways it's better than Podia. In some ways it's actually Podia is better because it's simpler. So I've got mixed feelings, right? But like the fact that I can connect, make 100 grand and then be in a community with other people who made 100 grand and get promotion as having made all that stuff. It's like free marketing for me. So I'm basically like, I'm getting free marketing. Yeah,
I mean, I'm gonna write it down a note, and we got a marketing meeting in an hour, and I'll bring it up.
Just the perspective, you know, for me, it really is a free marketing for me as a consumer.
No, totally. And I would love to do more of that stuff. Like I would love to do it, only focus on like how to like make my customers happy, that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm hoping that over the next like 2, 3, 4, 5 years, I can start to do less of the product stuff and focus more on like that kind of thing.
I get it. Awesome. I just, those two questions came to mind as well. I was reading the questions.
Sure.
Next question is, how do I integrate quizzes for lead generation with flowing buyers into a course, especially if I have payment on Podia? Oh yeah, because she's in South Africa, so she doesn't have Stripe.
Yeah, I mean, it's really tough because we're sort of beholden to Stripe. So we support Stripe and we support PayPal. And Stripe is just not everywhere yet. I think they've made a lot of strides, and there's more and more countries every few months that get added to Stripe. So yeah, we're sort of, unfortunately, because we use their API behind the scenes, you know, we can only support the countries that they support. That being said, I think like over the next few years, that's why I keep saying how like this market is still so new, because all these technology platforms they haven't even reached, you know, they probably reached like 30 countries, and there's hundreds of countries in this.
I can see what you're saying.
Yeah. So I think that, plus, you know, we would like to support potentially other payment processors at some point too. I mean, there's Square, there's other ones that we want to look into supporting too. So our goal is to let anyone anywhere in the world sell and not be like beholden to Stripe's payment processing, you know? So yeah, that's my goal.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. What about the quizzes? She asked about the quizzes for lead gen and stuff like that, you know, like a quiz funnel, stuff like that.
Yeah, so we support quizzes as part of courses. So we support multiple choice quizzes. We also mentioned earlier, we have over 1,900 embeds. So we support lots of different types of quiz embeds too. So if you wanted to embed like Google Forms or Typeform or Quizlet or other quiz services too. So yeah, that's a very common strategy. We see people create a course, maybe it's only a quiz, or maybe it's a quiz plus something else. And then they use that as like a free lead magnet. And we have an upsells tool as well. So you can tie that to like a paid course or a paid download or a community or something like that. But it's definitely a very common strategy that we see on the platform.
Yeah.
And if you need any help with setting that up, just contact our support team and they can help you.
Yeah. Awesome. One other question we had here is, what makes Podia unique? Maybe they kind of, you may have answered already, but feel free to chime in and give a little spiel on that.
Yeah, there's a dozen different things, probably multiple dozens of things I could talk about. I think the highlights are one, we're an all-in-one platform, so you don't need to stitch together a bunch of different products to get all the features you get with us. So, we do all different types of digital products. We do email marketing, we do website building, we have built-in affiliate marketing, we have built-in live chat for you and your customers. So we have all different types of tools. So that's nice, instead of having to go and sign up for like an email tool and sign up for a course platform and a download platform and community platform, et cetera, et cetera. So the all-in-one thing is a huge benefit to using our service. Also, it's affordable. So, we, as I've talked about earlier, like we're looking to support tens of thousands, hopefully eventually hundreds of thousands of creators. So we try to keep the prices low enough so that it's affordable for everyone, but enough so that we can continue to grow the team and stuff like that. So affordability is important. And then the third one we've touched on a lot is just ease of use. So we've made the product really, really simple to use. We have people that are 18 years old all the way up to like 75, 80 years old. So we have all different types of customers, but it's very simple to use. And that kind of goes back into the all-in-one product, and that you can easily click a button to launch an email and then go back to add a course and send a message. So again, having everything in one place is super convenient. And then the fourth thing, which is what our customers probably talk about the most, is that we just have fantastic customer support. We have live chat 7 days a week. Our support team is like, if there was an award for best support team, like they would win it, because they're just like absolutely amazing. So those are four, but I could keep going.
I love that. Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. I think I have probably about 25 people in my group who I've referred to Podia. So,
oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Hopefully they're happy.
Yeah. So and I also know the retention. Like I've had 25, give or take, very, very few cancellations, maybe two, maybe.
Yeah.
So very, very high retention. And then also, I'll tell you a little bit of, I don't know if you want to know, but like when I started, sure. I mean, I wasn't tech savvy at all. I mean, like I didn't start with the university or software engineering, like none of that stuff. I have no background in any of that. And when I got started, honestly, like building a website was an overwhelm. Like I had somebody do all the stuff for me, domain hosting. I didn't understand any of it. And Podia was the first place that I actually built it. I had my brother help me with LearnPress, set up an online course on LearnPress.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I died. I absolutely freaking died, just
stay off WordPress for that.
What's that?
I said, stay off WordPress for courses.
Painful.
Advice.
Yeah, painful. And so that was why I ended up moving to, and then I needed to accept payments because I was trying to move away from just affiliate marketing, and like, I want to get paid for something, whether it's a coaching or ebook or I don't know, whatever. And Podia was my solution for the payments. And that's what I used it at the beginning, was just wanted the Stripe integration to start with, and then pre-sold the course. And I think I pre-sold the course, maybe $700 or $1,000, like three of them or something, while I was on the trial, so I can pay, because I was so stressed out about even getting on a subscription. I was like,
sure.
At the time, it was a big jump, and Podia made my life a lot easier. So thanks for that. Yeah.
Well, thank you for being a supporter. I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, awesome. I can ask you a whole bunch of more technical questions, like CEO picking your brain, but I think we'll leave it at that. I think this was really helpful. I think
cool. Well, thank you.
I think this is a lot of valuable for a lot of my people as well.
Awesome.
Definitely eager to see the numbers. I know my people are always like pricing questions on pricing and what's the market does, and getting that high level overview is going to be really helpful as well. We didn't discuss any special coupons for my audience, but I think your plan is pretty generous as it is. So
it's back to my previous point, like it's very affordable software. Considering all the things it does. And so, we have people that save $5,000-$10,000 a year just from switching to us. That's how much money we can save people. So and awesome. We have 14-day free trials to try it out, and hopefully you love it.
I'll do a little pitch for anybody that's listening. If you sign up for Podia between now and Friday, I'll give you 3 months of my membership for free, the tech support, and I'll give you the client acquisition course for free, which is $297. Only if you're a new customer to Podia and you're not a member of my membership. If you're already in my membership, don't worry, you're gonna get so many other stuff already as it is. But if you're not a member of the membership, I'll give you 3 months tech support on Podia as well. So yeah, because I have a tech support membership, by the way, that's what I do. So
Great
I actually, I do a tech support membership. So basically I set up I did a service where I build people's website. Now I build websites for people, right? But I only do it on Podia, Zenler, Kajabi. Those are the main ones that I do. I did Mighty Networks last week as well. So I do those platforms primarily. And then it became, I just couldn't do it. I had so many clients. What I do now is also, I realized after I build it, they still have questions, they still need support. And me answering their questions is actually really valuable because I've built it with them, right? So, so I've got that insight. I can log into their account, move things around for them, record a tutorial of how I did it, send it back. So I've got a tech support membership. I've got about 120 people. And yeah, and it's a really good service. And basically they get a under 24-hour response time. And I actually do it all basically. So
very cool.
Yeah, so that's the membership that I do. So there you go.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well,
all right.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I really appreciate your time. And we'll definitely promote this on channels. And thanks a lot.
Cool. Thanks. And take care, everyone.
Bye.